Hi guys, this is JP Adams, and I'm documenting my process of more or less making a shift from, I'll say, someone that was much of a thinker to someone that's more of a doer. So, started out with taking on a small weight loss competition bet with a friend of mine, and after winning that bet, then it rolled into this month. I'm doing NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writers Month. And then next month, I'm going to publish my the nonfiction book that I wrote on that, which is called Thinker versus Doer. And so I'm basically here on a daily basis, kind of like documenting the process and what I'm learning and things like that. So an interesting thing that I've been seeing happening is just the amount of resistance that you have to deal with now. If you're not in I'll say, the productivity circle, and you're not big on looking productivity stuff, then you might not know that term. But basically, that's a term that I think Seth Godin and Steven Pressfield, both very popular guys in their own right, kind of coined that term. I'm not sure who came up with it first, but the idea being that, when you have something that you want to do, you got this resistance that's like holding you back. All right, fix that. And so you got some kind of resistance that's holding you back. And really, that's what I'm dealing with, where every time I want to make a video, then technical difficulties. But I'll say, so every time I want to make a video, what ends up happening is that I have to sit for about 10, 15 minutes sometimes, just messing with the camera, trying to get everything set up so that I can do it. But I know it's resistance because there's nothing that's preventing me from actually, just coming in, pressing record and starting to talk to you guys. But as I'm showing the journey here, I think what I'm finding is a lot of time, I think prior to now, I used to more or less be able to focus really hard on one thing. And I think with focusing really hard on one thing is that whenever you have two things fall on your plate, then you're picking really like which one should you drop. And this time around, I decided to do it differently. So I'm seeing that things are still not necessarily like lining up, in the sense that I'm writing for NaNoWriMo, doing a business ignition boot camp that's, and I have a course that I'm supposed to make, or a service that I'm supposed to put out and offer. So basically, along with writing this book that I'm going to publish in December and doing the business ignition boot camp, which is it's helping me. I think it's, on one part, it's helping me form a community of people that I want to be around. But on the other part, it's also something that I think it just forces me to show up and do the work. And so because there's community there, I think for me, it's like I'm big on having some kind of like group participation or something. I mean, knowing yourself is the first key, right? So I figured out that about myself, because I'm like, the first time I won NaNoWriMo, I had a whole group of people that were doing it at the same time. We weren't necessarily doing it together as a group, but we were in the same group. Therefore, you had like a little community form up around it. We checked in on each other. We helped each other out. So this year, I went around to the different groups that I'm in, and I'm like, okay, let's see if we can do that. And I realized that there weren't a lot of the groups that had enough of enough people that were committed to doing it. So I decided I'm just gonna like make my own group and bring those people together for that reason, to start doing it. And the thing is, so far that's been great, because then it's like I have a way to check in, kind of like a little mental thread that gives me that sense of community for me to check in every day, every other day, and see, how are they doing? How am I doing? And, it's like, it's nice, and I get to, encourage people, which is like really, you get a positive boost from that. But I think that's what I'm getting from the business ignition boot camp, which is it's taught by the guys over at Miracy, and they're an online education platform kind of thing. So always be learning, always be growing, right? But I found that the toughest thing, right? I see people writing, and people talk about writing being the difficult thing to do, to feel the resistance to writing, and I definitely felt the resistance to writing. But once I get going on the writing, I think it's a little bit easier for me to like sit down on the keyboard and bang out 1,000 words than it is for me to press play on the camera. And I don't know exactly what that is. Like, I don't know the reason for it. I don't know why I'm shy about it. And obviously, it's not that I'm camera shy. I think it's just that I still have this sense like, I don't know what I'm doing. And as it relates to this, I really don't. So I figure that if I keep showing up here and keep learning, I think that's the challenge, is that I don't have the opportunity to really go and study this like I would, which is probably a good thing. This is normally I would do a decent amount of research before I get started. And so now my research point is kind of like saying, okay, what do I do with, the lighting, or what do I do with the camera? And I'm seeing other ways that I'm supposed to record this rather than just going to the YouTube app and pressing record. But for the time being, I think I'm gonna leave it like that because that's the fastest and the easiest way to go. I think if you go back a couple of videos, I experimented with one where I actually did a little bit of editing to put in like a label, like an intro thing, right? It's like it would say JP Adams like over there in the corner. I think it's like over there somewhere. And so, I'm figuring that out. But no, I think the biggest lesson that I'm getting for the day is that once you figure out something that works, I think play around with it to make it better. But once you figure out something that works, then use what you know works rather than reinventing the wheel. So you need a baseline of something that works rather than reinventing the wheel. So the thing is, now I know something that works for me is if I write for 25 minutes a day, I will get at least 1,000 words. Like the minimum that I need to keep up with the writing that I'm doing is 1,700, 1,600 and change. But right now I'm so far ahead that I actually only need 1,500. But if I write for 25 minutes a day, I will get at least 1,000 words, which means as long as I show up every day for one writing session of 25 minutes, then I'll be on track. And I think that's something that other people can take away as well. If you have something that you're doing that, you need to make it happen. So, take the same thing. Go to the gym for 25 minutes a day, and just figure out how long does it take you to break a sweat? 10 minutes? Then, go to the gym for 10 minutes. Speaking of going to the gym, I think that's something that I need to get back into my routine, because after winning that bet with my friend, I've kind of kept my diet and everything else going, but I've definitely eased off in the gym going, experimenting with some intermittent fasting. But I think I'm gonna keep kind of sharing what the struggle is and the sticking points that I'm finding as far as publishing, because writing a book and then publishing the book, because I'm seeing that, whether NaNoWriMo was going on or not, I've met quite a few people that have wanted to write books. But what happens is when NaNoWriMo comes around and I'm looking for that accountability to keep me honest, I reach out to everybody that I know in my circles and I'm like, hey, there's an event that's actually gonna keep you accountable this time around. Do you want to go for it and write this book? And usually it's like, no, man, November is too busy. I can't do it. But the thing is, from what I'm figuring out right now, it would be very difficult for me to not finish my book, because as long as I keep showing up for one writing session every day, and it doesn't matter how busy the day gets, I can find 25 minutes. and the quality might not be amazing, but I can find the 25 minutes to show up. I think that's the key here. It's like show up, and I think that's been the one shift that's taken me from a thinker to a doer, is to just show up to do, and that's it. So thanks. Again, my name is JP. I'm kind of documenting my journey of going from a thinker to a doer.